I am so thrilled to be joining the group, and Cesar and Josh, you guys are just really getting me fired up. I've already been fired up about 2022, but this is a way to really land ourselves here and get on with the year. And I got to say, I'm very impressed with the success stories, and I'm going to bring one of them up. In fact, Jen and John really spoke to some of the topics that I'll be addressing. So let's get going with what I'm going to be discussing today. And if we just take a look here, I have been a member of the Scientific Advisory Board, and congratulations, Dr. Beck, you are now the rookie of the board, but hardly a rookie when it comes to superb nutrition experience and scientific background. I've been with the board for 5 years, going on number 6, and I'm always impressed with what NeoLife has to offer. And here is something that I want to point out that I have, I think, a few times, and that is in my 10-year long stay at UC Davis, University of California, Davis, I never got involved in consulting with a nutrition company. And I really was not impressed with what I saw, which was an individual nutrient approach, not a whole food approach, not looking at what was in nature, looking at the background science, and then coming up with a whole food nutrition supplement. And I'd heard about NeoLife, but I thought, well, I'll focus that attention when my load gets a little bit lighter, which is hardly ever. And when I was approached to join as a member of the SAB, I was thrilled, honored, but more impressed as I've come to learn about the tremendous foresight that NeoLife has had over all these incredible decades. So my topic today is one that I've heard many of you allude to, and that is our cognitive health. I want to address a topic that many of us joke about. We say to ourselves, oh, if I could only remember where I fill in the blank, put my keys. I can't come up with that word. I used to be able to add numbers in my head. We have all sorts of our own personal stories about not being as sharp as we used to, maybe having a little bit of fog. Rather than focusing on chronic disease of the brain, Alzheimer's, and other forms of dementia, what I would like to do is to look at this as optimizing, no matter what age we are, look at a way, and do we know through science that we can optimize the health of our brain, the way we think, the way we move numbers around. So first thing is, let's take a look at how does your brain age. During gestation and the first few years of life, you actually add neurons, which are brain cells, and it's growing rapidly. And this is why nutrition during pregnancy and after a child is born is so critical. You can influence the health of the brain, the cognitive skills later in life. We have evidence about what pregnant women eat and the cognitive and IQs of their offspring. During childhood, your brain is busy making neurons, keeping things going and getting bigger. In fact, by age 6, and this is why young children seem to have such large heads, that they have 95% of the adult brain weight by age 6. Pretty amazing, huh? Well, as we go through our teen years, which may seem like decades ago, I'm sure you remember how obnoxious your parents were then, or if you have teens, they're obnoxious. But the bottom line is teenagers or adolescents don't have the proper wiring in yet. It's still developing. Again, nutrition is critical. Well, we start pruning away some of the neurons and refining. And by age 22, so in your adult years, age 22, that's as good as it's going to get, supposedly, for 5 years. Your top brain power is in those middle 20 years. Then, sadly enough, and this is part of aging, we start to see a decline. And this is a combination of a decline in actual cognitive skills, such as memory, our ability to comprehend, in particular reading comprehension. And by your mid-40s, and I hope I'm not discouraging or depressing some of you, by your mid 40s, you actually have measurable loss with memory, reading comprehension, and so on. And of course, as this progresses a number of decades, we see physiological changes that we can assess, and that speaks to the brain actually shrinking in volume. Brain cells start to die, and there are brain pathologies that can develop, such as dementia, that are characterized by changing in protein. You get some amyloid, some plaque buildup, as well as some changes in structural component. But I actually am not going to focus on brain disease. I want to address throughout your lifespan to optimize how your brain works. This based on science and looking at what it is that you're eating. So to address the cognitive level issue, I wanted to put these two people doing the hula hoop because we poke fun at ourselves. And I understand. I'm certainly not in my mid-20s, 30s, or 40s. And I know that I can't find a word that I wanted to use. Or I used to be able to stack up 10 different numbers and be able to add them in my head. Well, this is showing you the IQ at levels of different type of skill markers, such as numeric ability, and what happens over time. And you can see just the only thing really here to look at is the downward trend. By the time you get to your mid-40s, we see that numeric ability, verbal memory and recall, spatial ability, all of those things start to decline. What we want to address is, can we optimize that? And I did listen to you, Jen, on your success story, and you said you were just kind of in a fog. And a lot of us say that. We just are not as sharp. And I think you used that word about not feeling clear or alert. And this is an important feeling to have and think about. And I guarantee you that your diet does make a difference when it comes to cognitive health. Well, what I want to do is approach how can we slow brain aging? And we want to go through this as sort of a good, better, best. I thought that'd be a fun way to do that. And in chatting with Kendra before we finalized topics, she had this idea, and I really think it's a great way to approach it. Good, what should we all be doing in terms of dietary patterns, whole foods, what essential nutrients are key, and NeoLife products that can support brain health. Then, what's better for us to do? Can we really add to that and get some benefit, helping to slow cognitive decline that is inevitable? And then finally, what might be best? There are some research studies looking at different herbs and compounds shown to further support brain health, such as to enhance the blood vessel flexibility that actually may enhance blood flow and improve your cognitive skills. So let's take a look at a diet pattern. And this is a picture of some beautiful foods. Just look at the rich colors there that we get from the peppers and the greens and some spices. And that, yes, there's seafood in the middle. And if you're like me, you zeroed in on that glass of wine. Yes, that's there too, but notice not more than one. This is a picture of part of the Mediterranean diet, which has been studied for decades in regions of Europe in the Mediterranean region, showing that certain food patterns, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, mostly fish as a protein source, a little bit of wine on a routine basis, using olive oil and so on, has been associated with a variety of different health benefits, or a better way to put it, lower risk of chronic disease. And we typically hear that as reduced risk for heart disease, which is true. The DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension, has to do with, yes, a Mediterranean diet, but even more fruits and vegetables. Just what Dr. Beck was talking about, that the CDC and other assessments of Americans in particular, we fall well short, not just in getting 5 servings, but nowhere near the 10 servings that might be recommended. Well, research from a variety of different universities around the world, in Israel, but also here in the US, Rush Medical Center has coined a phrase called the MIND diet, Mediterranean-intervention for neurodegenerative delay. What this is saying is there is a dietary pattern very close to the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet that actually has been shown to delay the degenerative workings that go on as we age. And what's recently come about is this notion that there are certain food types, like berries, as you see pictured here, colorful fruits and vegetables, green leafy vegetables, seafood, rich, as Dr. Beck said, in omega-3 fats. In the fall of just this past year, from the Rush Medical Center in Chicago, they actually identified that even in people without brain pathologies, and this is important, everyone, even without signs of losing brain volume or losing ability to recall words, so that we can develop what we call cognitive resiliency by eating diets that are rich in antioxidant foods and anti-inflammatory foods. This is like, being touted as very, very important news, and it is. But let me say this, is that Dr. First and the Scientific Advisory Board were well ahead of their time. I actually am awed at how products were developed knowing that it isn't about just vitamin C or about a single antioxidant, but instead it's this synergy of many different compounds. And Dr. First had the insight to this, and the Scientific Advisory Board has always kept what is occurring in nature, how is this backed by science? So it's really quite incredible. So let's now take a look at specific foods. What can we do that's good? Well, for starters, the MIND diet, one that has berries in it and greens and all that we talked about. But through all my diet counseling, even from superior athletes who eat quite well, I would say, probably better than most individuals, they can't find the time. They don't know how to prepare foods. They aren't consistent. So really bringing products in the past, I would encourage people with diet. I still do, but I look to products that NeoLife has made as a way to get a foundation of antioxidants and other compounds that can impact brain health. For example, Tray. Amazing, ingenious is what I have to say. I did not come up with the formula for this. I was sadly not part of the NeoLife board because I would love to pat myself on the back that I had this foresight, but Dr. First and some of the earlier members certainly knew the essence of superfruits like pomegranate, acai berry, and green tea, that there are compounds, not just one essential nutrient, but an array of compounds called polyphenols, and polyphenols as antioxidants and other compounds that help support mental agility. And as we know, that in looking at what's in Tray, it's basically a collection of these superfruits. But if you look at as a product, this is what's incredible: standardized delivery. We know what we say is in there is in there. In fact, 20 times the potent polyphenol that's punagalligan content is consistent from tray bottle to tray bottle. And this, most companies don't even have this product. We know that it's got quite the number of fold, 5 to 10 fold, I believe, of resveratrol found in grapes and other dark colored vegetables and fruits. And also the lycopene and other antioxidants that we find in tomatoes. Tremendous product that we have for us to work with. Vegan protein, and thanks, Dr. Beck, for bringing this up. Why I want to tie this back in with brain health is what we're learning, that as we get older, we actually need more protein. But more importantly, during our lifespan, we have a choice between choosing vegan protein, vegetable or plant-based, and animal-based protein. And important research just out this month, it's not even collected a speck of dust yet and it's being talked about, is we know that getting a diet that overall is higher in protein, especially for people as we get past the age of 50, which is, a lot of people will swear that's the best time of your life, but that by getting more protein, especially eating something at breakfast like a vegan protein pack. So I want to close out on vegan protein by saying, again, another point of insight with NeoLife, vegan proteins have been shown to help lower the odds of subjective cognitive decline, and also on top of that, getting adequate protein in the diet. So another ingenious development. As Dr. Beck pointed out, omega-3 is very important throughout the lifespan. Women who take it during pregnancy, children who get adequate omega-3s as they grow up have really developed better cognitive skills. And we know that higher omega-3 status is linked to less brain shrinkage as a person gets older. So let's take a look just briefly at a few things that have to do with supplementation. That since omega-3s serve as a component of brain cell membranes, we actually have seen that increase with getting more omega-3s in the diet as well as supplementation. This is one of those nutrients through working with people that I have found we just don't get the omega-3s that we need on a consistent basis. Omega-3s also produce cellular mediators that improve the health of your neurons, neuronal health or brain cell health. And finally, we're interested in how can we minimize inflammation, as Dr. Beck spoke about, and I know that John Miller will be addressing, that can lead to brain cell death. So in comes NeoLife Omega-3 Salmon Oil Plus, another ingenious invention as far as I'm concerned. I wasn't around for its origination. 8 different omega-3s. Most omega-3 supplements look at 1 or 2, and this is an array getting the goodness that comes from cold water fish, salmon oil, omega-3s. And this is critical newer research that omega-3 supplementation is shown to significantly improve the cognitive function. And in the center in the brain, the hippocampus, where we know memory and many other cognitive roles are centered. Well, what can we do better? What can we add on to Trey and vegan protein and omega-3s? Well, we can help fill in our gaps, and that's exactly what Pro Vitality does. And NeoLife Tea actually addresses the polyphenol story. So you know what's in Pro Vitality: brain concentrate, carotenoid complex, salmon oil plus, and vitamin and mineral complex. Ingenious to look at how can we best fill in the gaps and provide ourselves with nutrients that will help support many different aspects of your overall health. But in particular, looking at brain function. So those nutrients specifically play a role and have been shown to be associated with better cognitive function. What about NeoLife Tea? Well, this is a product that has a proprietary blend of different teas: white tea, black tea, green teas. And as mentioned earlier, Dr. Beck mentioned a green Mediterranean diet. And this is one in which green tea and an additional load or intake of green leafy vegetables has been shown, and just fresh out research showing that it actually has slowed brain atrophy in individuals who do not show signs of Alzheimer's. So these are not individuals who have brain chronic disease, such as a form of dementia. They have just shown that this phenol-enriched, which what the NeoLife Tea is providing, which they provide a different batch or blend of greens and green tea, but polyphenol enriched. So can we say Trey, green tea, the NeoLife Tea has been shown to lessen the atrophy of the brain. And this can help long-term in cognitive health. Well, let's finish up with what's best. What can we literally, without putting frosting on it, because that's high in sugar and not part of the MIND diet pattern, what herbs and other compounds may play a role in mental acuity? Well, coenzyme Q10, lecithin, and mind enhancement complex are three products that NeoLife has had out for some time and ingeniously, again, play right into that brain health story in many different ways. CoQ10 is an antioxidant. It works in all of your cells to help with the energy release from foods and can act as an antioxidant as well. Well, you might say, and I learned this way back when I was in graduate school, is that we make CoQ10. That's true. But guess what? We start to slow down as we get older. And I don't mean 110 is getting older. I mean 30s, 40s. And by age 50, we're making 50% of what we had earlier. So it's important to look to a source of it. To get more in the diet. And this is a naturally sourced product with also polyphenol. What were those? Those important compounds that act as an antioxidant that help develop cognitive resiliency. Lecithin, which we know is a component of parts of it as brain cells, is another item that we know it plays a key role in memory and in muscle function as well. And the components of this lecithin, phosphatidylcholine, underline the word choline, is involved in the transmission of the crosstalk between brain cells and the nervous system, so neurons. So acetylcholine as a neurotransmitter. So this is an important role of this nutrient, which, let's go back to our earlier years during gestation, after being born, first couple years of life. Research evidence that getting choline early in life from food sources like egg yolk or from outside supplemental sources, and this natural source can help support healthy brain function and delay some of the onset of cognitive decline. And finally, are there some herbs? We hear lots about this, people taking all sorts of things, even experimenting on their own. Well, the NeoLife Scientific Advisory Board turned to worldwide what herbs have been used that science backs up. So we're looking at what's in nature, what does science back up? And there are several herbs found in this mind enhancement complex. And it's a synergistic blend. We know that ginkgo biloba, for example, helps the flexibility of blood flow, the blood vessels into the brain, has been shown to improve mental clarity. Another herb that's in mind enhancement complex is Gutu Kola, which also has been shown with research to help with cognitive skills. And finally, another one, red sage, the same, with having also polyphenols and enriched antioxidant content to help optimize your mental performance. So rather than thinking of cognitive ability as, I'll worry about that when I'm really old, is we want to look to how well can we nourish our children, our teenagers, young adults, and ourselves as we go on in life to maximize at any age, optimizing our cognitive health. So thanks so much, all of you, and happy 2022. Let's go in with it with some clear thinking and focus to energize ourselves.